Three experts, three different numbers. Morningstar, one of the most respected investment research firms in the world, says the safe withdrawal rate for 2026 retirees is 3.9%. Bill Bengen, the financial planner who created the 4% rule in 1994, says retirees can safely withdraw 4.7%. And the Trinity Study, the landmark academic research that validated the 4% rule, was updated in April 2026 with data through the end of 2025 and still supports the original 4%, 3.9, 4.7, and 4. If you are planning your retirement around this rule, this disagreement matters a lot because on a $1 million portfolio, the difference between 3.9% and 4.7% is $8,000 a year, every year, for the rest of your retirement. Today, I am going to walk you through every version of this debate, what changed in 2026 to create this disagreement, and a practical framework for choosing the right withdrawal rate for your specific situation. Let's get into it. In 1994, financial planner Bill Bengen published research that changed retirement planning forever. He analyzed historical stock and bond returns going back to 1926 and asked a simple question. What is the maximum percentage of a retirement portfolio a retiree could have withdrawn each year, adjusted for inflation, without running out of money in 30 years, even in the worst historical market conditions? His answer, 4.15%, rounded down to 4% for simplicity. The assumptions behind the rule: a portfolio with roughly 50 to 60% in stocks and 40 to 50% in bonds, a 30-year retirement horizon, annual withdrawals adjusted for inflation each year. The 4% rule became the default guideline for an entire generation of retirement planning. But Bengen himself has never stopped refining it. And in 2025, he told CNBC that retirees who stick with just 4% are likely, quote, cheating themselves a little bit of the retirement they earned. He now suggests 4.7% as the historically safe maximum rate based on expanded data, including small cap value stocks. In December 2025, Morningstar published their annual State of Retirement Income Report with projections for 2026 retirees. Their conclusion, 3.9% is the safe starting withdrawal rate. That is actually an improvement from their previous year's figure of 3.7%, driven by slightly better bond yields in 2025. But it is still lower than the classic 4%. Why does Morningstar land below 4%? Their methodology is different from Bengen's historical approach. Morningstar uses forward-looking return assumptions based on current market conditions, not just past data. And current market conditions include elevated stock valuations. Stock prices in 2026 are high relative to earnings by historical standards, which generally implies lower future returns. Changed bond dynamics. The bond market has shifted significantly since the 1994 research was conducted. Longer retirement horizons. Morningstar's analysis targets a 90% probability of success over a 30-year period with a balanced portfolio. 40% stocks and 60% bonds. At that conservatism level, 3.9% is their answer. Here is the critical nuance, though. On a $1 million portfolio, the difference between 4% and 3.9% is exactly $1,000 per year, $40,000 versus $39,000. That is not a crisis. Morningstar themselves describe it as a, quote, minor calibration, not a fundamental problem with the rule. So why does Bengen land so much higher than Morningstar? Three key differences in approach. First, Bengen uses historical data going all the way back to 1926, including the Great Depression, World War II, the 1970s stagflation era, and every bear market in between. His argument is that if a 4.7% withdrawal rate survived all of those historical worst case scenarios, it is a reasonable floor to plan around. Second, Bengen's updated research includes small cap value stocks in the portfolio, which have historically outperformed the broad market over long periods. Third, Bengen focuses on the worst case historical scenario, while Morningstar uses projected future returns, which are inherently uncertain. Bengen's view is essentially this: retirees who are too conservative with withdrawals often end up with significantly more money at the end of their lives than they needed, having unnecessarily restricted their spending. He told CNBC in 2025 that this overcaution is a real cost, not just a theoretical one. The Trinity Study is the academic research from Trinity University that independently validated Bengen's 4% rule. In April 2026, the study was updated with data through December 2025, adding 30 additional years of market data to the original analysis. The conclusion: the 4% rule still holds for 30-year retirements, with 50% or more in stocks. But the update also found something important. If you plan to retire early, or if your retirement might last longer than 30 years, the 4% rule becomes less reliable. With a 50-year retirement horizon, the success rate at 4% drops to around 90%. For a 40-year retirement, the researchers suggest a rate closer to 3.5% for higher confidence. The practical implication for traditional retirees: if you are retiring at 65 and planning for a 30-year retirement to age 95, the 4% rule remains well supported. If you are retiring earlier or planning for the possibility of a very long life, a slightly more conservative rate gives you more confidence. Before we talk about strategies, I need to explain the biggest threat to any withdrawal rate. It is called sequence of returns risk, and it is the reason why a simple percentage withdrawal rate can fail even when the long-term average market return looks fine. Here is the concept. If you experience significant market losses in the early years of your retirement, while you are also making withdrawals, the damage to your portfolio is much harder to recover from than losses in later years. A retiree who retires in a year when markets drop 30% and immediately begins withdrawing 4% is in a fundamentally different position than a retiree who experiences that same 30% drop 10 years into retirement. The early retiree has sold more shares at low prices to fund withdrawals, permanently reducing the portfolio's ability to recover. This is why even a historically safe withdrawal rate can fail in practice if the timing of bad markets is wrong. This is also why flexibility in withdrawal strategy matters more than the exact percentage you choose. With that context, let me walk you through 4 strategies that go beyond the simple 4% rule. Strategy 1, the guardrails approach. Instead of withdrawing a fixed inflation-adjusted amount each year, you set upper and lower guardrails. If your portfolio grows above the upper guardrail, you allow yourself to spend a little more. If it drops below the lower guardrail, you cut back temporarily. This flexibility dramatically increases the sustainable withdrawal rate. Morningstar's research shows that guardrail strategies can support starting rates closer to 5 to 6%. Strategy 2, the floor and ceiling method. You set a minimum spending floor, the amount you absolutely need to cover essential expenses, and a ceiling, the maximum you will spend in good years. Your guaranteed income, Social Security, pension covers the floor. Your portfolio provides the flexible spending above that. This naturally reduces sequence risk because you are not dependent entirely on your portfolio. Strategy 3, The bucket strategy. Divide your retirement savings into 3 buckets. Bucket 1, 1 to 2 years of living expenses in cash or cash equivalents. This is your spending money, insulated from market volatility. Bucket 2, 2 to 7 years of expenses in more conservative investments like bonds and dividend stocks. Bucket 3, everything else in growth-oriented investments for the long term. When markets are down, you spend from bucket 1 and 2, giving bucket 3 time to recover without being forced to sell at low prices. Strategy 4, the dynamic withdrawal method. Rather than a fixed percentage, you withdraw a percentage of your current portfolio value each year. This naturally reduces withdrawals in down years and increases them in good years, protecting the portfolio from sequence risk. The downside is that your income fluctuates, which can be difficult to plan around for fixed expenses. So, after all of this, what is the right withdrawal rate for you? Here is a simple framework. If you are 65 or older, have significant Social Security income, and are planning for a 30-year retirement, the 4% rule remains well supported. You may be able to stretch to 4.5 to 4.7% if you are willing to be flexible. If you are retiring before 65 or planning for a retirement that could last longer than 30 years, consider starting at 3.5 to 3.9% for more confidence. If your essential expenses are largely covered by Social Security, pension, or other guaranteed income, you have more flexibility with your withdrawal rate because you are not fully dependent on your portfolio for survival. In all cases, build in flexibility, a withdrawal strategy that can adjust up or down based on market conditions will outperform a rigid fixed percentage in almost every scenario. The 4% rule is not dead, but it is also not the only answer. The best withdrawal rate is the one that matches your specific situation, your guaranteed income, your flexibility, and your actual spending needs in retirement. If this video helped you think more clearly about this question, please share it with someone who is planning their retirement. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video. Stay safe and stay protected.